A circle graph, or pie chart, shows the relative percentage of a whole. They're called pie charts because sometimes they look like pies cut into slices. The whole pie, or the whole circle, represents 100%. A slice of the pie, or a section of the circle, represents a small portion of that 100%. No matter how you slice the pie, whether it be in 2 slices, 3 slices, or 5 slices, it will always add up to 100%. When creating a pie chart, or circle graph, it's important to remember that within a circle, there are 360 degrees. That represents 100% of the circle. So when looking at a sample pie chart, you can see that the pie chart is divided up into many slices. Each angle, like this 40-degree angle, represents some percentage of the whole circle, 11% in this case. So if you were to add up all of the angles in this circle, it would equal 360 degrees. If you were to add up all of the percentages in the circle, it would add up to 100%. Let's practice creating a pie chart by using some raw data. Let's say that you polled your classmates to find out what type of music was everyone's favorite. Let's say there are a total of 25 students in your class. 6 of them said that they liked rock music. 8 people said they prefer pop. 7 prefer country music. 1 person said that they prefer classical music. And 3 people decided that there was some other genre of music that they prefer. It is appropriate to use a circle graph or pie chart in this case because 25 people represent the whole class, 100%. We want to visually represent the relative percentages of each of the individuals in the class that prefer each type of music. So we're going to create a new column in our data table here with percent. We need to calculate the percent of each of these individuals that prefer each type of music. In order to calculate the percentage of people who prefer rock music, we would need to take the number of individuals who like rock music, 6, and divide it by the total number of individuals in the class, which is 25. Using a calculator, that gives us a number 0.24, which is equal to 24%. We'll add that to our table. In order to calculate the number of people who prefer pop music, we would need to take the number of people, 8, divide it by the total number of people, which is 25, and that would give us 0.32, or 32%. 7 people liked country music, so we take 7 divided by 25, which is 0.28. That means that 28% of the class prefers country music. Only 1 individual prefers classical music. 1 divided by 25 equals 0.04, or 4%. 3 people classified themselves as liking some other genre of music. So we'll take 3 divided by 25. That gives us 0.12, or 12%. Notice that if we add up all of these percentages together, we get 100%. Now that we've figured out the relative percentages of the class that like each type of music, we're nearly ready to create our pie chart. We cannot draw our pie chart freehand, estimating how big each slice of the pie should be. So we're going to have to use a protractor and measure to find out how big each slice should be. It's important to remember that 100% of the pie is equal to 360 degrees. So we're going to have to do a few more calculations in order to figure out how big each slice of the pie should be. In order to calculate how large the rock slice should be, we need to take 24% of 360 degrees. So we'll take 360 times 0.24, and that gives us 86 degrees. Now we know that when we create our pie chart, that the angle representing the slice of rock music should be 86 degrees. Pop music represents 32% of the class's preference. In order to calculate how many degrees that angle should be, we would take 360 degrees and multiply it by 32%, 0.32, to get 115 degrees. So the slice of the pie representing pop music should have an angle of 115 degrees at its center. In order to figure out the percentage of the circle that should be country music, we take 28% of 360 degrees to get 101 degrees. That's how large the slice of pie should be representing country music. Classical music is only 4%, 360 times 0.04. That gives us 15 degrees. So this will be a pretty small angle representing classical music on the circle. Lastly, the other category, we take 360 degrees times 12% or 0.12, and that gives us 43 degrees. So the angle of the slice of pie representing other should be 43 degrees. You'll need to start by tracing a circular object to get a perfect circle, finding the center of the circle and drawing a vertical line to that center. Once you're ready to begin drawing your angles, place the protractor over the center of the circle. Make sure that the vertical line is lined up with that 0 line. Then follow the numbers over to your degrees. For the first degree, for rock music, you'll need an 86-degree angle. So find 86 degrees and draw your line. That section represents rock music, and the angle would be 86 degrees. Again, place the protractor with the hole in the center of the protractor at the center of the circle, lining up your last line at the 0 mark. Then follow the numbers over to 115 degrees, which is the angle we needed for pop music. Make a mark at 115 and draw your line inside the circle. Now you have a 115-degree slice that represents pop music. Again, placing the protractor with the center in the middle, lining up your 0 line. This time, we'll find our way to 101 degrees. Mark that point and draw a line to the center. That slice of the pie represents country music, and the angle is 101 degrees. For classical music, we need a 15-degree angle. So again, placing the center of the protractor at the vertex, lining up your 0 line, finding 15 degrees, make a mark, draw your line, and that tiny little slice of the pie represents the percentage of the population who prefer classical music. That's a 15-degree angle. The remainder of the pie should represent 43 degrees, your other category, but just to make sure, you should check your angle. Make sure nothing's off. So placing the vertex at the 0, you should see that the line lines up with the 43-degree line. Here you can see our pie chart generated by a computer. Each section of the pie, or slice of the pie, is represented in a different color. You can see the key at the bottom. Each color represents a different type of music. Rock is shown in green. The angle that we created using our protractor was an 86-degree angle. That represents 24% of the whole circle. 24% of the population prefers rock music. In yellow, you can see that 32% of the population prefers pop music. 32% is an angle of 115 degrees. Country is represented in orange. That angle is a 101-degree angle, 28% of the circle. Classical music is shown in blue. That tiny little slice of the pie has a 15-degree angle, which represents 4% of the whole circle. And lastly, in red, you see the other category. That's a 43-degree angle, which represents 12% of the circle. Again, all of these angles add up to 360 degrees, and all of the percentages add up to 100%.